Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with June 23rd's spoilers for Magic 2015. This is on MythicSpoiler.com. I like using this site just because all the spoilers are nice and laid out. So anyway, let's just go over them. I'm just going to go over every card and talk about my feelings of the M15 set and if these cards are going to be able to see play, if they're able to if I'm excited to actually brew around them or not. So the first one we have here is Shield of the Avatar. And it says an equipment for 1 and equip 2. So usually equipments that I've found that are actually playable either have to do something amazing or they have to be low costed to either play and equip. And this one at least falls in the category of low costed. And it says if a source would deal damage to equipped creature, prevent X of that damage, where X is the number of creatures to control. Now, see this? I can already see some little combinations with this card because you're going to have at least one creature to play, the creature that is equipped to it. So having it prevent 1 damage from each source is pretty good, especially if you pack full of cards like Pyroclasm or in this case that's in the set is Anger of the Gods. Then I can see Shield of the Avatar actually being decent. Now, so it's going to be a limited bomb, of course. This is definitely going to be something that I'd see would think would be first pickable. It's going to be a bomb rare. You're going to be very happy if it's in your pool, especially equipments are very, very powerful and limited. But as far as constructed play, it's going to take a lot of brewing around. I think that I probably will brew around it either once or twice. It does seem to be an artifact set, as we've had cards like Shrapnel Blast already spoiled. And this is just a nice cheap costed equipment that you can get value out of it early. And then late game when it starts to lose its luster, you can actually either have sort of benefit where artifacts in play does something or actually sacrifice it to one of the cards that actually requires you to sacrifice an artifact. So Shield of the Avatar I think is perfectly well balanced. Again, I think it's a great design and whatnot. So let's move on to Yisan the Wanderer Bard. Now this card is awesome in like Commander or casual formats. The problem with cards that cost 3 and then 3 to activate and tap is a lot of times you don't get any use out of them by the time that they are already handled. So we've seen in the past standards that especially this standard and the Innistrad Return to Ravnica standard is you need cards that actually impact the game immediately. Cards like Thragtusk, cards like Restoration Angel, and if they are going to be activated abilities like Pack Rat, you got to be able to build entire decks around them to actually protect that activated ability. Yisan the Wanderer Bard is going to take 2 of your turns, 2 of your complete turns to actually utilize, and the verse counter. The first time you put a verse counter is you can only get a converted mana cost 1. So, I mean, you could go get like an Elvish Mystic, but the more counters she gets on her, of course, the more powerful she will be. This will make a cool commander in EDH. I do not believe that it's going to be standard playable, even if a brewer like myself can put together a million pieces to try to protect Yisan or try to, have a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5 drop. It's not going to be powerful enough. So, Yisan the Wanderer Bard, great design. Oh, and limited. This is definitely going to see play in limited. I absolutely love it in limited. But again, you might get stuck on those critical. Do I have a 1 drop that's useful to get? Do I have a 2 drop that's useful to get? Etc. Etc. So, and it's equal to the number of verse counters. I wish it was equal to or less than, because that'd give you more options. Because again, you're going to run into that where if it gets high enough, I mean, it's going to have a limited number of activations before it becomes kind of useless. So again, it's pretty cool design. It's not very powerful, so it's powerful enough that the casual crowd's going to love it, but it's not near powerful enough in a constructed play to actually be viable. Now we go into Goblin Kaboomist. This card is actually pretty sweet. So the bigger upkeep, you put a colorless artifact token named Landmine onto the battlefield. Sacrifice artifact. Artifact deals 2 damage to target attacking creature without flying. Alright, so that's kind of sweet. It's defensive, which is kind of weird for red. I wish it was attacking or blocking, because that would give it more uses. But nonetheless, just the ability for it to put in landmine, to put in tokens, just tokens you actually could do other stuff with. Again, Shrapnel Blast is in this format. We have cards that might actually work off like affinity type stuff, where if the more artifacts, the merrier. So I'm liking that it puts in incremental landmines. And now the secondary thing is you have to flip a coin per turn, and if you lose the flip, it deals 2 damage to itself. Now that's key as well as a 1/2. If you have any sort of goblin Lord out, then it's a 2/3, and this ability won't even kill it. So again, this will require you to. The only card that I can think of in standard right now is the either like Door of Destinies it'll come in as a bigger goblin, or the artifact, the 3-mana artifact, the legendary artifact out of Journey of Nyx that red creatures or whatever color you choose get +1/+1. And of course that will make it a 2/3, which its secondary ability where you have to flip the coin won't actually affect it. So again, I think that this will see some play around. Some brewer will find a use for it, and I'll probably be trying to brew around it. Again, it's probably a limited bomb, but it's one of those really, really high risk, high reward cards that it could kill itself on the first turn, and you only get one little artifact out of it. But it's still a fun card, though. Now we come on to a very, very interesting card called Aggressive Mining, and it says you can't play land, sacrifice land, draw 2 cards. Activate this ability only once each turn. Now that's key as well, that you can only activate this once each turn. And to me, it just seems a little bit weak because we have cards like Phyrexian Arena, 1 life, and draw a card each upkeep. They just seem overall way more powerful than Aggressive Mining. Now, this might go in a burn deck where if you have 4 lands, anything, but the thing is you can't play lands. Just, again, a very awkward card, as I'm sure it will find some play. It will find some uses. Again, artifacts you can still play that generate mana, but it's only going to have 4 or 5 uses before it's kind of obsolete. So you either need a way to destroy Aggressive Mining, or you need to have a way that cheats in lands other than actually playing them. So any sort of ramp card like Primal, why can't I think of the Titan, Primeval Titan, actually forces them into play, and it's saying you're not playing lands, you're forcing them to play. So that's something you get around it. But still, this seems like a very, very hard card to actually utilize in either constructed or limited. So I'm thinking a lot of people are going to be very disappointed to actually open this card. So again, though, it's going to be one of those cards that I think Magic needs more of, these kind of niche cards that people have to use their brains to actually how to utilize. So again, I give this card, I think it's a great addition to the set, as this is the type of Magic that I prefer personally. Now we go over to Obnixis, the Unshackled. Now this card seems like a commander bomb. Do I think it's going to see play in Standard? It could. It's got kind of this morbid effect. Whenever another creature dies, put a +1 counter on it. So that's cool. That's awesome in Commander. And it's great in casual formats. It's pretty good in Limited. A 4/4 flyer for 6 with Flying Trample and the ability to get bigger and bigger, especially if you have a sacrifice type deck, is pretty sweet. So it's going to see the constructed limited play. And it's going to see Commander play because whenever opponent searches their library, it deals 10 damage to that player. There's so many cards in Commander that you either force your opponent to search a library or they just search their library themselves, that this card is just going to wreck. So this is going to go in most black decks in Commander. I think that besides very, very highly tuned like niche decks, I won't put it in my Commander deck just because every one of my cards in my Commander deck really affects my Commander, and Obnixis would not affect my Commander, so wouldn't go in my personal Commander deck. But I see a lot of black decks just throwing this dude in here to punish other decks. And again, it's a demon. That's kind of cool for any of the decks that work around the Shadowborn Apostle, and it would be a fun little demon target. Because again, the Shadowborn Apostle searches library, but it's opponents, not all players. This is all players. I think it'd be a lot less playable. Now we go to Master of Predicaments. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, choose a card in your hand. That player guesses whether the converted mana cost is 4 or greater. If they guess wrong, you may play the card without playing its mana cost. So you have kind of a 50-50 chance of your opponent guessing wrong, or it's the thing is, like, the majority of your cards are going to be 4 and less or in your deck. So, but it's kind of funny with this card is just this card just makes me laugh because you could have some you could have Emrakul in your hand and they better guess right. Otherwise, you get a free card. You get a free Emrakul being kind of ramped into play by this ability. So again, it's a nice little fun card. Flying for 5 mana, 4/4. They can get you some sort of value. Not going to be a big bomb in either Standard or Constructed, but it's one of those cards that just makes me smile. So of course it gets my nod there. Alrighty, so let's go on to Warden of the Beyond. This is a very interesting card as well. A 3 mana for a 2/2. Even if it was a 3 mana for a 4/4, we already have like Loxodon and Smiter in the format, and it sees some play, but it's not as powerful as everyone would think. This guy, Vigilance, and whenever if an opponent has a card anywhere from exile, it gets a 4/4. Most games there is a card or two that are in exile, But again, I don't think the ability, just +2/+2, is great enough to really justify playing this card. Most of the time it's going to be a 2/2 and it has that ability that sometimes will be a 4/4. Limited play, it's fine, but I highly doubt that you'll even want to pick these high and limited. So let's go on to the Soul of Shandalar. These souls are all pretty juicy. This one happens to have first strike, which it's kind of weird with red. It doesn't seem like they have a defined ability for red. You know, blue usually has flying, green has trample or hexproof, and black has death touch. Like red, they've been all over the place. First strike, trample, haste. Haste used to be the ability, but apparently they must have thought haste was too powerful on this guy. So first strike, you can activate it for 5 mana, deals 3 damage to target player and 3 damage up to one of those creatures that player controls. That actually seems one of the more powerful abilities of the souls. So I've talked about some of the other souls recently, like the Soul of Zendikar and the Soul of Ravnica. This one actually seems like it's the most powerful one. And then what's in your graveyard, that's not that bad of an ability to do 3 damage to opponent and 3 damage up to one creature that player controls. This is a free activation. So far, this is my favorite soul, as I think it's going to have... So we still need the white one, I believe. Everything else has been spoiled. Or the black one as well. White and black have yet to come. But we have the green, blue, we have the green, the blue, and now an artifact one that I'll get to later. All right, so now on to what people have dubbed the New Immortal Servitude, Return to the Ranks. And what makes this card a little more powerful than Immortal Servitude is its mana cost 2 or less. So I'd be a little less restricted on building decks with either 1 or 2 drops, as this can be both 1 and 2 drops. The problem is Immortal Servitude is just you pay this X one time, and all those creatures come into play. But this does have Convoke, which helps the mana cost be reduced. But anyway, this return X target creature cards with converted mana cost 2 or less from their graveyard to the battlefield. I definitely will be brewing around this. I'm going to be very, very sad when Immortal Servitude goes out. And I think Return to the Ranks is a great... Again, it's a little more restrictive with the mana cost. You can either put Immortal Servitude in black or white decks. This one's only going to go into white decks. And again, you can't just completely fill up your graveyard with like 12 creatures, because this would cost 14 mana to return 12 creatures, whereas Immortal Servitude, it's just that 5 mana cost a lot of times. So, this does just scream value. You can cast it for 3 mana and return just 1/2/2. It's going to be a limited bomb, and it's going to see constructed play in a White Weenies deck for sure. And it probably will be in that aspect a little more powerful than Immortal Servitude, because Immortal Servitude was more restrictive as far as either 1 or 2 mana casting costs. It could be a 3 mana casting cost Immortal Servitude, but by that time you're up to 5 mana, and that's a little bit of an issue to get up to 5 mana. So definitely my favorite card spoiled so far. This is such a Kevin card, and I'm definitely going to be brewing around it. Now we have my least favorite soul, which is Soul of New Phyrexia. Trample 6/6 for 6. It has 5 permanents you control gain indestructible in a turn, and 5 exile Soul of New Phyrexia from your graveyard. Permanents you control gain indestructible. To me, I just think that it's the least useful, because this is such a niche ability where you're gonna have to. I mean, it is an answer for Supreme Verdict, but 5 mana is hardly an answer, and you're putting a lot of mana into this guy just for a 6/6 trample. Again, artifacts sometimes are a benefit, but in this aspect, it's going to be less of a benefit, because I'm sure there's going to be artifact hate running around, especially artifact hate just in the fact that people are already in enchantment hates, and a lot of cards that destroy enchantments also destroy artifacts. So I'm not too sure about this card. I'm not going to say right off the bat that it's not going to see any play, because again, it's a lot of times colorless mana can be cheated in a lot easier than colored spell. Tron, I don't think, wants this though, so we'll have to wait and see where this guy actually any sort of niche it may fill. But in my opinion, I don't think that it's quite constructed playable at this moment. Let's go on to the last card spoil of the 25th, was Jalira, Master Polymorphist, and again, this has the same problem as the Yisan, the Wanderer Bard, is that we've seen this card is. There is a card that polymorphed before in the past, had an activated ability, and it was really hard to get off. And this one can only sacrifice another creature, reveal cards from the top of your library until non-legendary creatures. So you can't even cheat in Emrakul or some of the other, like Elish Norn or some of the other big cards. Like, these decks usually have Jalira and then tokens and then like one creature in your library besides Jalera. Like the old one used to have the Blink Moth, or not Blink Moth, Blink. The 11/11 Infect Trample, whatever his name was, the big golem guy, 11/11 Infect Trample, and whatever else he did. And then a bunch of lands that produced a token, and then you sacrifice the token, and there'd be only one other one other creature in your entire library, which would be your target that you want to cheat in. Again, these kind of cards are so hard to both cast for 4. You're using your 4th turn, your 5th turn, and you still have to protect this guy. And again, if you're going to use this in a deck that isn't so finely tuned that you absolutely are going to get that perfect card, that you could actually get like an Elvish Mystic or a Sylvan Carroted off the top, and then it just feels so weak to use that entire turn to get it. So again, this is a brewer card. It's definitely good in limited, and in Commander, I'm sure it's going to see some play as well. But as far as power level, I don't really see it impacting Constructed. Now, there was one card spoiled on the 22nd, which says whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay a white. If you do, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. That's a pretty sweet card. And then sacrifice a spirit, target non-spirit gains indestructible until end of turn. So each one of your creatures that you play gets a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying on the battlefield. If you play again this white. So I think this will see play. It's perfect in a white weenie type strategy, as you're getting 2 creatures for well, it will cost you that extra 1, and this actually will be very pertinent, but I think that's a very low cost to actually put in a 1/1 white flyer that you could actually overwhelm the boards. What we do need to see is like an Honor the Pure reprint, which I really think we're getting hinted at that, or some sort, because it does seem like we're leading up to that. But you do have Spear of Heliod in the format, and again the Hall of Triumph in the format as well. So those are definitely options for a white weenie that wants to get a bunch of tokens onto the battlefield. Alrighty, so again, speaking of tokens from the 18th, I'd made a spoiler video, but I never released it with this. We have Raise the Alarm, which puts 2 1/1 white soldier creatures tokens into the battlefield. I definitely think that this is a great card for white weenie strategy. I definitely think it will be see play in Standard every time it has been printed in Standard and has seen play. We have some cool cards. We have some filler cards in Hoarding Dragon and Hornet Queen that are nice limited cards, but I highly doubt they'll cease play. Convoke is highly spoiled here. We got like Siege Worm, Convoke. Convoke is definitely going to be a strategy. I think it'll be a nice white-green strategy. Raise the Alarm is the perfect Convoke enabler. I do not like cards like Overwhelm. This card just seems counterintuitive by tapping creatures that will get +3/+3. But that's kind of cool. The cards that I am very excited about reprints, of course, are Shrapnel Blast. Again, a very powerful card. It seems like it will have enough artifacts to be able to utilize this. And there is a lot of artifact cards, actually, like the golems from the Perforos weapon. The Hammer Perforos are actually artifact enchantments. So you actually have Shrapnel Blast for those. We have Darksteel Citadel, which is a highly powerful card. Again, it's seen a lot of play before and is a much-needed reprint. Both of these are kind of a much-needed reprint in Modern. Other than this one was just printed in Modern Master, so it hasn't been very expensive. But one of the cards I'm very excited about is Wall of Mulch. I definitely wanted something that... this is sacrifice a wall, any wall, draw a card. And this card has just been very fun to brew around in the past, as there could be a wall deck. Ravnica had some really cool walls. I can think of the one that goes and gets the lands, either the gates or a land, that, you could have like kind of Immortal Servitude wall route with Perforos. And you better believe that that'll be my first deck that I would be brewing, will be like a green-red Perforos Immortal Servitude deck that will be trying to get out Perforos and then killing them with just the activations of walls coming into play, as we have so many of them in the format right now. And again, the set is winding up to being quite a interesting limited format, which I'm going to be trying to figure out the limited format a lot, because I know I will be playing in one major tournament, Grand Prix Salt Lake, on, I believe, September. Sometime in the 1st September, there'll be Grand Prix Salt Lake that I'll be playing in, which will be M15 sealed. So I definitely want to know this format. So cards like these Convoke Devouring Light seem very, very powerful. I think this will actually see play as well. I don't think Celestial Flare will be reprinted. I think this will be the spot for Celestial Flare. but it's a good card. It saw play last time around that it was printed back in old school Ravnica. And last but not least, well, we have Ornithopter. That's again, it's going to need some more artifacts to really utilize Ornithopter, but it's a free card. 0 mana for 0/2 flying. People have built around it in the past, and I'm sure it will see play as well. And another card that I am kind of excited that it's seeing a reprint, even though it's still in standard right now, is did I pass it up? Maybe it was back. Maybe I already talked about it in the last videos and whatnot. Was the Founders Street Denizen. I'm really thinking this card didn't see the power that it could have. It's been, you see it every now and again in a red deck wins or a blitz deck. But I'm glad that it's reprinted because I think this card is very powerful, especially if they give us some way to put out token cards with Founders Street Denizen. But anyway, last but not least, the spoilers for the 15th. We have a Johnny's Primate coming out. You better believe this is one of my favorite cards. Of course, I'm a huge fan of Soul Sisters. And I think the standard already has between like Scavenging Ooze. I know Scavenging Ooze is going to be rotating, but at least for a while we have like Scavenging Ooze and Courser of Crewfix to really, really abuse Johnny's Pridemate. And they call Johnny's Pridemate the White Tarmogoyf because in the Soul Sister it does play that role. It gets huge. 2 mana, they got to answer, otherwise it's going to be huge. So definitely looking forward to it. We already have again Soulmender or Johnny's Pridemate. You'll see this combo a ton in the limited format. You have Tireless Missionaries, things like that, Divine Favor that can all pump up a Johnny's Primate. Cool thing about Johnny's Primate is value already. 2 mana for 2/2 isn't bad. It's a bear. When is bears never seen play? They always seen play. So really, really cool. Again, Wall of Essence is another wall for the aforementioned strategy with the walls. Definitely looking forward to the set. Probably my favorite card spoiled so far out of the set would be between the Return of the Ranks and the Soul of Shandalar. I really think that they are the 2 most powerful cards, at least the 2 that I'm looking forward to brewing around. Let me know in the comments what your favorite card is. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.